Hello everyone, it's Darkizer again, and welcome to my Spawnship review. We have a collection of Spawnships available in Space Engineers now. Originally we just had the one that you see here in front of you, which is the big yellow bus. This is the respawn ship that many players have started the game with and have rejoined the game after they have died. As you can see, it's not the prettiest vessel ever made, but it is very serviceable. A little dinged up, a little worse for wear, but a perfectly serviceable craft. You can see it has 4 thrusters on the back. It has 2 thrusters facing each other direction, including the braking thrusters, so you do have to be careful when you're flying this thing. It does accelerate twice as fast as it decelerates. Now on the top you can see that it has a collector, it has a connector on the bottom, so you don't just have to start the game with the ship and immediately set to chopping it all up and using the parts. It's a perfectly serviceable ship, and I can tell you from experience there are enough components on board the ship that you can disassemble parts of it and use the components in order to make a large ship drill, which you can then mount on the front of the ship. So instead of worrying about hand drilling or gravity mining or something of that nature, you can go ahead and you can attach a drill right to the front of the respawn ship, and it's very stable with regards to drilling, so it makes a perfectly serviceable mining ship. Now the ship is very complete with regards to starting off the game. You have the gravity generator, you have the obligatory medical center, and then of course you have your refinery and your assembler, and you have a small cargo container. Now this starts out empty. Some of the respawn ships you actually start out with materials, but this ship has so many things in it. It has so many things available, and it has so many features that I guess the developers decided that you didn't really need to start out with anything. So as I said, very serviceable ship. You have more than enough materials to get started. The biggest drawback to this particular respawn ship is the fact that it starts with relatively little uranium. So the best way to fly this thing, at least when you first appear in it and don't have any additional fuel in it, as I demonstrated at the beginning of the video, you turn your inertia dampers off and you go ahead and accelerate in a direction. Go ahead and just stop accelerating and just coast, and you'll save a lot of fuel that way. It gives you a little bit more loiter time and maneuver time at the end. And now let's move on to our second respawn ship. So now we have respawn ship number 2, and of course we have the options of medical rooms and so forth, but this is not a medical room video. Now one of the differences is that this ship is quite a bit smaller than the original ship. It is much more streamlined and quite a bit more maneuverable for its size. However, it does still have only the single braking thruster up front, where it has 4 forward thrusters, so it accelerates a lot faster than it decelerates. And it has 1 thruster facing in each other direction. As I said, that's adequate for the size of the ship. It's not terribly heavy. It's not made of heavy armor blocks or anything like that. And again, it's not terribly large either. So pretty maneuverable ship. You can get a lot of use out of this thing. One of the biggest drawbacks is the fact that unlike the first ship, it does not come with a gravity generator, which some players consider a necessity and some players consider it to be something of a luxury. It also does not come with a refinery. It has an assembler and it has a small cargo container. The small cargo container actually has components in it. Not a lot, but it does have some things to get you started. It also has more uranium in it by far than the basic Spawnship. So it has a lot more loiter time. This one has, as you can see, it has almost 300 days worth of loiter time. So if you just needed to use it as something to recharge your suit or something to explore, then this might be a better ship. It uses less fuel to get around, and it has more fuel in it. However, if you need a refinery, if you're using this as your initial spawn ship in a scenario, then you're going to have to start chopping it up almost immediately so that you can use the components to build a refinery. Other than that, again, perfectly useful ship. Much more streamlined, much easier for getting into tight places if you want to park it inside an asteroid. The wedge shape makes it quite a bit smaller and less clunky than the big yellow bus. So, all in all, a perfectly fine ship. And now we're on to Spawnship number 3. Now I'm taking these a little out of order. I'm skipping the small drill ship and the escape pod on purpose. I wanted to bring all of the respawn ships first, and then we'll go back and we'll cover those at the end of the video. This respawn ship, as you can see, we return to the traditional yellow color. It does still have the streamlined shape, the wedge shape that the second respawn ship has. It has the by now very familiar thruster pattern, one thruster facing in each direction with 4 to the rear, so again it accelerates a lot faster than it decelerates, so you have to be careful with it. It is more complete with regards to features. It has both the assembler and the refinery and a cargo container. However, like the first respawn ship, the cargo container is empty. So you've got enough uranium, quite a bit of uranium actually. You've got plenty of uranium to get you where you need to go and still have some loiter time. But you don't have anything else. So it's somewhere in between the first ship and the second ship with regards to its overall utility and usefulness. Yes, you can show up someplace and immediately begin cutting the thing apart if you absolutely have to. However, you can just as easily use it as a mobile base. It's not as suitable for mounting a drill on the front, unfortunately, but since it has both the assembler and the refinery, it's a very useful ship. Again, it is a smaller profile, so you can fit it into tighter places than you can the first ship. It is, however, lacking the gravity generator. However, as I said before, some players consider a gravity generator to be something of a luxury. It all depends. Your mileage may vary. Now, one of the drawbacks to this design over the primary respawn ship. Again, it's very nice, it's very slender, you know, it fits into tight places. It has all of the things you really need to get started, except for the gravity generator. But accessibility to the refinery and the assembler are a bit of a problem. On the initial respawn ship, you could access the refinery directly from the rear of the ship. On this design, they've managed to cover up all of the ports, and the only way to get to everything is through the cargo container on the outside of the ship. To me, this is a pretty serious issue. When you're first starting out and you're running around, you have very little uranium to play with, you have very little suit time to play with often. You don't want to be fumbling around for, you know, where do I put the uranium? Where do I put the ore? How do I get into everything? You really don't want to screw with that kind of stuff. The other drawback is the fact that the reactor is not connected directly to the refinery, so that you can refine uranium, but then you have to move it to the reactor by hand. And now we move on to the drill ship and the escape pod. Now, as you will see, the escape pod is pretty much as described. It's, well, it's a pod. It's one of the two small ship respawn ships in the list, the drill ship being the other one. So, of course, it's much, much more compact than even the smallest of the three large class ship respawn ships. It's the only one that has a large thruster at the back, as well as three small thrusters. So again, it has a significant amount of acceleration. It has two thrusters in the front for slowing down, though, so the braking thrust is not really a problem. However, except for the fact that it has quite a bit of uranium and some components in it, in the cargo container, it's no frills. Because it is a small ship and it's unmodded, you get no refinery, no assembler, no gravity generator, no headlights, no power windows, no window defroster, no tint. It's pretty much as it came off the showroom floor. Another thing to be aware of is, even though the ship has quite a bit of loiter time, that basically means that it has virtually nothing drawing power. The minute that you start using that big thruster on the back end, you start cutting into your fuel pretty severely. As you can see, you go from being able to sit around for years to only having a few hours or a day for maneuvering time. So you really don't have a lot of time to play around. This is also the only respawn ship that has a landing skid on it. It also has, as you saw there a moment ago, several smaller reactors instead of one large reactor, and which is good because you can always choose to grind down one or more of the reactors if you need some components. And then, of course, you do have a few things in the cargo container. But all in all, it's definitely not what you would consider a luxury craft by any stretch of the imagination. So now we're going to take a look at the small drill ship. I have to confess, this is the first time I've actually seen this particular vessel. I started playing Space Engineers back before we had multiple options for respawn ships, and I haven't started any new games since the developers gave us all of these cool new ships to start with. This one has quite a bit of thrust on the back. It actually has a bit of a sleeker design. I like the tail design, the cutouts on the pods there. Again, it's a nice compact design. It's all swept back away from the drill, so you're not going to be crashing into anything. But again, not much in the way of frills. It has all of the things necessary to make a drill ship work, and that's all. Now, it also has some components in the cargo container, which is a little unexpected and kind of nice. But it doesn't have a lot of uranium. You definitely don't have a lot of flight time in this thing. You've got 0.4 of a kilo of uranium total, which gives you, it looks like, a couple of hours of time. And again, if you've got the dampers off, no, it looks like you've got a little bit of time in the thing, but again, not much. One of the first things you're going to want to do if you respawn in one of these things, you're going to want to get back to base as soon as possible and make sure that you load the thing up with uranium. You really do not have a lot of time to be fooling around in this thing. Now, for me, one of the important features of this is going to be how stable it is. So let's go ahead and test this out. The vibration doesn't seem to be too bad. A lot of smaller drill ships tend to vibrate so badly that you can't even navigate the thing. Let's Let's take a look at that from the outside and see how that works. No, that's workable. It's not as unstable as I would have thought for a ship of this size, considering that it doesn't have a tremendous number of thrusters for stability, and it's also not terribly heavy. I've seen single drill ships that were a lot more unstable than that. So I consider that entirely workable. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with it. As I said, it's a nice design. It's very sleek. It's very swept back. You're not likely to smash into anything. Of course, it's no good for what they call plunge drilling. So you can't take the thing straight through the asteroid. Of course, you've got way too much stuff sticking out for that. But this is perfectly workable as a starting ship, somebody starting off in a survival game. Now, one of the things that I've noted, and I would have to try the ship out in order to find out, I don't know, let me see, we have light armor here, we have light armor up above, so it does have some armor around the cockpit, not much, but it's better than nothing at all, so that's nice. I don't know if it has a conveyor system to feed directly into the cargo container, so you may have to remove the ore by hand when the drill fills up. It also does not have any sort of a connector or ejector system, so you would probably, as soon as you head to the components, you'd probably want to modify that as well. And now we move on to the most basic start that you can come up with. Yes, it's a suit. Your space suit, that's pretty much what you got. Talk about no frills. So there we have it. From left to right, we have our initial respawn ship, the big yellow bus. We have respawn ship number 2, the blue one. Respawn ship number 3. We have our small drill ship, and we have our escape pod. If you like the video, then please give me likes, and subscriptions are always appreciated, and suggestions as to what my next video should be. This is Darkizer, wishing you a good evening.